PSG, Arsenal, FC Porto. All three clubs completely trust a platform that's barely 2 years old in the US. That number is very misleading. The real build took over a decade, just not over here. I'm Antony. This is the GenZEO Playbook podcast, and in the next 30 minutes, Antony Zoozout is going to walk us through what happens when years of credibility in one market means almost nothing the second you land in another.
It became very clear during some of my first conversations here in the US. In Europe, mentioning the clubs and professionals we had worked with created an immediate context. But here in the US, people would listen politely. The real questions were different. It's like, who knows you here? Credibility does not, always travel across. We had to rebuild trust from basically zero, creating a US specific content, working with local coaches. And we also had to stop leading only with European clubs. We had to start demonstrating how our experience could solve also American problems. I wish someone had told me that expertise and distribution have to be built at the same time. When I started, I believed that we created the best curriculum. The market would naturally find us. That's not how it works.
PSG, Arsenal, FC Porto. All three clubs completely trust a platform that's barely 2 years old in the US. But here's the thing, that number is very misleading. The real build took over a decade, just not over here. I'm Ranali. This is the GenZEO Playbook podcast, and in the next 30 minutes, Antony Zoozout is going to walk us through how he's training the next generation of soccer scouts, analysts, and agents right now as the World Cup just landed in the US. But first, we do need to understand something most founders have never even dealt with. What happens when years of credibility in one market means almost nothing the second you land in another? Anthony's going to answer that question for us today, and I'm so honored to have him on the show. Anthony, how are you doing?
Pretty good. Thank you, Ryan, for having me today.
Thank you, Anthony. All right, so before we jump into the World Cup timing, are you able to explain Soccer EDU to me? I'm a soccer parent who just heard it from another parent, but I want to actually know what it does and actually what it teaches.
Okay, so basically Soccer EDU is an online education platform that teaches people the professional side of soccer actually works. And on the platform, we cover coaching, scouting, video analysis, data analysis, and player development, of course. So the content is created with professionals who have worked inside clubs. So it's not just theory. It's also, practice and use cases.
Mm-hmm.
And our students, they learn how to analyze a game, how to evaluate a player, how to understand a club's recruitment process, and how to use the best software in the market. So Y Scout, Sports Code, StatsBomb, and others. So as you said, originally, we designed it primarily for coaches, scouts, and people who are trying to break into the soccer industry.
Mm-hmm.
But we quickly realized that parents were also looking for this knowledge because they're making major decisions about
youth soccer,
coaches, showcases, agents, and development opportunities. So it was really important for us to understand exactly what they're worried about.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not replacing the coach, we're just helping parents understand the system around the coach.
Mm-hmm. So you've been building this back in France for over a decade now, right? Building the curriculum, the club relationships, the model, long before Soccer EDU ever touched the land in the US.
Yeah.
So are you able to walk me through what a decade of experience actually looks like, but on the ground?
It was much less glamorous than people might imagine. We started by identifying a major gap. A lot of people wanted to work in soccer, but the knowledge was concentrated inside professional clubs. And there was no clear pathway for someone who wanted to become a scout, video analyst, or a performance analyst without already having the right network. So when you're talking about the soccer industry, you always talk about the network that you have. So we spent years building the curriculum for the ground up, and we interviewed professionals, studied their workflow, created practical exercises, and constantly updated the program based on how the industry was evolving. So we also had to earn the trust of the top clubs and experts one at the time. It was very difficult at the beginning, but as much as you're working hard, your name became a little bit famous in the industry, and you have the trust from top experts. So over the years, we had the chance to collaborate with professionals connected to organizations such as PSG, Arsenal, Porto, as you said, Real Sociedad, but also US clubs like Dallas FC, Columbus Crew, Atlanta United, and others, and also some federations. Of course, the French federations, the Moroccan federations also. So we are trying to develop our network, but
Yeah, yeah.
step by step. But to my opinion, the most important part was the iteration. We tested different format, pricing, models, learning experiences, and ways of helping students turn knowledge into something very, very practical.
Mhm. It's great that you're developing your network, but I want to know, like, as soon as you land in the US with 10 years of European proof behind you, whether the PSG, Arsenal, and FC
Yeah.
Porto, who completely trust this model, what was the moment you realized none of that credibility carried over, and what did you have to rebuild from the ground up?
It became very, very clear during some of my first conversation here in the US. I
Hmm.
mean, in Europe, mentioning the clubs and professional we had worked with created an immediate context. But here in the US, people would listen politely, but the real question were different. It's like, uh, who knows you here?
Hmm.
Do you
Hmm.
understand the American pathway? Do you understand MLS? Do you understand college soccer? Do you understand youth club? So it was totally different, and credibility does not, always travel across border, as you
Yeah,
said.
yeah.
So you may have experience, but you still have to
Like, prove
translate.
yourself.
That's right. You still have
Yeah.
to translate that experience into the local market. So,
Hmm.
we had to rebuild trust from
The
basically
ground up.
zero by, creating a US specific content, working with local coaches, local organizations, local companies, private academies. We had to listen to parents, understanding the difference between the European and the American market,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
we also had to stop leading only with European clubs and names, so we had to start demonstrating how our experience could solve also American problem.
Hmm. Yeah. So your entire pitch is that we're opening a closed industry, but you're also the one selling the ticket in. So where's the actual line between opening up access to scouting and analyst jobs and just rebuilding a new toll booth in front of the same closed door?
That's a fair question, and the
Hmm.
distinction is very, very important. So um, we're not selling a guaranteed job. That's not what we're doing. We're not selling an exclusive connection or secret doors into professional soccer. That's not
Hmm.
what we're doing. We are selling educations, skills, methodology, and exposure to how the industry really works. So my, and I would say our responsibility is to make sure that people leave the platform with more independence that they had when they arrived. So
Hmm.
they should have more skills regarding scouting, video, data analysis. They should know how to use the software. They should understand how to analyze a game, how to build a portfolio, how to approach a club professionally, how to continue developing without being, permanently dependent on us. So that's our main mission. And we have also worked to lower the financial barriers. Historically, this type of education cost thousands of dollars,
Hmm.
but we moved toward a more accessible subscription model and regularly provide webinars, free webinars online and
Hmm.
educational content. And we're doing regularly, every 2 to 3 weeks, there is an online free webinar for anybody who's
Who
interested in
wants to join? Yeah.
the soccer industry. So
Hmm.
opening access does not mean pretending that everybody will get a job. Of course,
Yeah.
it means giving more, people the
Opportunity
opportunity, yeah, to
to
develop
everyone.
the skills that were previously available mainly to insiders.
Hmm. Right. So you did mention before that you built this for coaches and scouts, but parents became the real market.
Yeah.
So what did that tell you about who is actually driving demand in youth soccer right now, and how did that like convince you, or how did that help you change how you built the product? And I know you kind of did answer this earlier, but if you're able to add on to it.
Yeah, of course. So, parents are one of the most powerful forces in youth soccer,
Hmm.
but they are also one of the least supported.
Okay.
To my opinion, coaches are responsible for the team and the training environment, and parents are often responsible for everything around it:
Hmm.
choosing
Hmm.
the right club, paying the fees, evaluating opportunities, managing travels,
Yeah,
communicating with the
transportation.
coach.
Yeah.
So a lot of stuff. So
Hmm.
that creates a huge information gap. So when families do not understand the pathway, they can, easily confuse visibility with development, expensive programs with quality, and promises with real opportunities. So that's the problem, and
Hmm.
it definitely changed how we build the product. We created content that is clearer, more practical, and directly connected to the decision, sorry, family are making.
Hmm. I kind of want to add on to just a general question as well, but how exactly do the parents get confused? Like when they don't like communicate with the coaches, do
Yeah.
they send their kids to like wrong camps, like where there's not very high quality but the fee is very high? Like how exactly do they confuse get
No,
confused?
I mean, they were confused about how do they analyze the level of their kids.
Okay, okay.
So we are teaching parents how to analyze a game like a scout,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
to be very I would say realistic on their kids level.
Okay, okay.
So when you're talking to parents, every moms and dads are saying, okay, my kid has the level to play D1,
Hmm.
and usually they don't know what a D1 scout is looking for. So
Yeah.
we're just here to teach parents how to
Actually
deal with.
analyze what level your kid is at.
That's right,
Okay,
basically,
all
and
right.
also how the industry works.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Right, so a lot of World Cup hype in the US was pushing a lot of parents to spend money on this for their kids.
Yeah.
Chasing a scouting or an analyst career that very few people actually landed. So, how do you make sure that you're selling a real pipeline towards that and not just like some fancy dream with some really good packaging?
So the first step is to be honest about the probability. Of
Mm-hmm,
course, and everybody knows that a career in professional soccer is highly competitive.
mm-hmm,
And completing an online program does not guarantee someone a job, or we should never suggest that. I mean, it's not possible for us to say you
mm-hmm,
would get a
mm-hmm,
job at the end of the program. So we separate aspiration from execution. The World Cup can create excitement, but excitement is not a career plan, of course. So
mm-hmm,
our job is to show people what these roles actually involve, what skills club expect, and what steps are required. That includes, of course, learning the methodology, as I said, producing real analysis, building a portfolio,
mm-hmm,
gaining experience, developing a network, and understanding how to approach a club, an academy, or any kind of organization properly. So we also expose students to multiple pathways. So not everyone, of course, will become the head of analysis of a top MLS clubs, but someone may work with an academy, a college program, a semi-professional team, or even a technology company like Hudl, NAC Sports, or many others. So
mm-hmm,
we should be measured by the quality of the competencies people develop and the opportunities they may become qualified to pursue. So not to be unrealistic promises. So we do not sell certainty. Of course, we're just providing a structured pathway in an industry where the pathway has historically been very, very, very unclear.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And just another general question: how exactly do you hire a, let's say, not an agent, but a
Scout?
scouting analyst? Like they
Yeah.
pass the online interview or the online program. What exactly do they have to do to prove themselves?
Oh, they have to show their portfolios.
Okay,
So
okay.
they have to show any sporting directors or general managers that they understand the club, they understand the game plan, they understand what the club is looking for, they
Hmm.
understand also the region, the financials. It's everything about context. See, what we're saying during our program is like, you cannot say that's a good player or that's not a good player. The main sentence that we're continuously repeating is like, that's a good player for a good club during the right time, on the good context. Let's take
Okay.
an example. For example, Dembele. I'm sure you know Dembele, who's playing
Mm-hmm.
for PSG. Do you remember Dembele playing for FC Barcelona? That was not the same player at all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it was not a question of talent. It was not the player itself. It was just a matter of context.
So being
So
at the right place at the right time.
yes, yeah,
All right. All right. Okay.
and of course, and understand the club's context. Of course, that's the main thing. Scouts they have to understand.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Anthony, that AI and data tools are already eating a lot of what analysts used to do by hand, right?
Yeah,
So 5 years from now, does that make a platform like yours more essential, or does it shrink the exact jobs you're actually training people for?
I would say that both outcome are possible depending on whether we adapt. So AI and data tools will automate a lot of the repetitive work
Mhm.
the analyst is doing to perform manually. So tagging actions, for example, generating clips, identifying patterns, and producing basic reports. It will become faster, much faster with AI. Sorry.
Mhm.
But that may reduce some entry level tasks, but it also increases the value of human judgment. A tool can identify that a player completed a certain number of progressive passes. A good analyst still needs to explain why it matters,
Show
whether it
proof.
fits, yeah,
Where
whether it
the AI just like pulls up stats saying, "Hey, this guy's a
yeah,
really good passer
that's
because
right,
oh,
that's
he's never missed a pass and he's passed
that's
to
right.
these players." Yeah.
And to
So,
my opinion, the analyst of the future will spend less time collecting information and
mhm.
more time interpreting and validating and communicating those information to the staff members.
Yeah, that is a great help with AI. Pulling up all the stats. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Hmm.
So, I mean, our curriculum also has to evolve. Of course, we need to teach people how to work with AI, question its output, understand its limitations, and transform information into decisions that coaches, scout, or any executive can actually use. That's the main point.
Hmm. All right. So, Anthony, for our last question, this is
Mhm.
mainly for our audience.
Yep.
What do you wish someone had told you when you first started, but nobody did? This is
Yep.
like a very, you can take a minute because it's a very deep kind of advice type question.
Yeah. I mean, I wish someone had told me that expertise and distribution have to be built at the same time. When I
Hmm. Hmm.
started, I believed that we created the best curriculum, worked with the right experts, and produced enough value, and the market would naturally find us.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
that's not true, and that's not how it works, unfortunately. So the market does not automatically reward how much knowledge you have or how hard you've worked.
Hmm.
People need to understand what you do. They need to trust you and to see how it applies to their specific needs or specific situation. So I would have invested earlier in building the brand, the community, the audience, and the local relationships around the product. And I also would have learned earlier not to confuse being right with being understood. That's, to my opinion, totally different. So you can have a great solution, but if you cannot explain it simply, localize it, and earns people attention, the quality of the solution will remain, unfortunately, invisible.
Wow, wow, that is some great advice, Anthony. One last question as well.
Yeah.
Would you say building distribution like with the product, or would you suggest someone builds distribution with the product, or first build distribution and then like build your product? So build an
Uh,
audience before you have a product.
no, I think that you should do both at the same time.
All right,
Build the
all right.
product and the audience at the same time.
Hmm.
It's
Anthony,
not very easy
so,
to do, but that's something that you have to do if you want to succeed.
definitely, yeah. Anthony, I really appreciate you not giving me the simple and the PR answers. Once again, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the invitation, and congratulations for all the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much. Anthony, I do have three takeaways for today's episode. So, first of all, traction does not cross borders on its own. A decade of proof in France meant almost nothing when walking into a US market, so Anthony had to rebuild that trust from zero. Secondly, watch who actually pays. Soccer EDU was built for coaches and scouts, but parents became the real users. And that shift actually changes what you're building. And last, opening up a closed industry and charging for the key are two different claims, but the real test is whether the door gets wider for the people who couldn't afford it before. So, your homework for the next episode is to go look up one scouting or video analyst job that you didn't know existed before and see what it actually takes to land that role. Once again, if you want more breakdowns like this with real founders, real frameworks, and no fluff, subscribe to the GenZEO Playbook podcast on YouTube and wherever else you listen. And drop a comment with a question you would have asked Anthony, but we didn't get to. Once again, I'm Rayan Ali. This is the GenZEO Playbook podcast, and I'll see you in the next episode.